My Life with Nina Tame.
So, thank you for joining me, Nina, on my next episode of My Life With. Did you want to just start off by introducing yourself and telling us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me on. That's super sweet of you. So I'm Nina, and I'm a mum of four boys, and I'm disabled, and I do some kind of. I always feel weird calling it activism work because it always makes me feel like a bit of a fraud. But I do disability activism work on Instagram. Yeah, that's me. That's it.
Amazing. And did you want to just tell people what your Instagram handle is? I'll tag it, but I just thought.
Thanks. Yeah, it's Nina. I think it's Nina underscore Tame,
Yep,
Tame. That's it.
perfect. All right, everyone check her out after this, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot from this as well as from her Instagram. I know I love following you because it's a very good mix of humor as well as education. So you have some pretty funny moments. I think you like to call yourself a troll.
I call myself a bog troll because every kind of I'll sort of have my day when I'm looking really fresh, and then a few days later, I just sort of in my stories, just looking like a total bog troll.
I love it. I love the honesty. Also, I've never heard anyone call themselves a bog troll, so I love that.
It felt very appropriate. Everything gets very greasy. It's just
Uh,
it's great.
I love that. So the way I've been starting off with everyone is I've been starting off with the question or getting you to tell me what your main barriers in society are.
Okay. Um, so for me as a wheelchair user, I kind of feel like I face sort of just physical barriers, as in places just not being accessible. But I think what I find worse is the kind of, I guess they're barriers, just like the attitudes from other people.
Yeah.
I find it just so frustrating and also really bizarre.
Yeah.
Um, like I always imagine sort of almost like the analogy of having a conversation with somebody like while I'm driving my car, like at traffic lights or something, and then being perfectly like, just chatting, and then 5 minutes later they see me in a wheelchair and it would be totally different. And
Yes.
it's like, it's just a fucking chair. Like
Just a different set of wheels. Get over it.
it's it is just a different set of wheels, and it's just such a sort of odd, all the different kind of like ways that you get treated as well. I'm relatively new to this because I only got my wheelchair last year, and the more I'm out in the world, the more I'm finding it amusing more than anything else.
So there are a couple of questions that I was thinking of as you were saying that, which this happens a lot. So you said that you got your wheelchair about a year ago, and have you noticed a difference in the interactions that you have with people in society since you've started using a wheelchair?
Yes, yes, she says. Yeah, so pre the wheelchair, I was using crutches and I would wear like a leg brace all the time.
Yeah.
And it the it was constant of people asking me, "Oh, what have you done? What's happened to you? What's wrong with your leg?" Like just all the time. I'd open the door to like the takeaway guy and he'd just ask straight away, and it'd be like, and I just absolutely hated it. And that kind of doesn't, it occasionally still happens in the wheelchair. Occasionally somebody will sort of say, like, "Oh, how did you end up in that then?" Or, "What have you done to yourself?" But more often than not, it's just like I've become completely invisible. Um, it's very odd. I mean, it's kind of great in a way because you can just do what you want. But yeah, there's a kind of just complete invisibility. And if I'm out with someone else, often people will talk to the person I'm with and not me.
Yeah.
Um, like just becoming completely like people just treat you like you're just a grown up baby. It's
Yeah.
just really, really odd.
So do you think that would be because people identify wheelchairs as something related to disability, but they saw you on crutches beforehand as like just an injury rather than a
Yeah,
disability?
absolutely. I think crutches to people, like I think when people, if you ask somebody what disability means, I actually asked this in my stories the other day, and one of like the biggest kind of thing that people were saying is like wheelchair, it means wheelchair.
Wow.
Um, and obviously we know within this community that it means so much more than that. So yeah, I think when people, I mean, I started off with a walking stick about 10 years ago because that's when like I've got spina bifida, and that's when it sort of really started to decline. And then I went on to using the crutches. But yeah, it's absolutely both of those things was you must have had an accident that you're going to get better from. So it's almost like it's okay to ask, but disability, oh, that's tragic because you're never getting better ever.
And then because you're not getting better, do you think that causes that awkwardness in them, and that's why they don't interact with you as much?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, excuse me, I think for some people it's like just almost this sense of, because disability is just viewed as being so kind of, I think subconsciously as well, a lot of the time it's just, you know, I think if you look at the history of disability and the way disabled people have been treated and casted out and killed pretty much, I think, you know, just in the subconscious of people, disability is just this awkward, sad, I don't know how to be around that thing. And that's what wheelchair equals to people. And it's not all people. Like, I've met people that have spoke to me as if I was an actual human, but it's almost like the bar is set so fucking low that when they do, I'm like, oh my God, I love them so much.
They're amazing.
No, it's ridiculous. Like, just because they said hello to me, like, that's it. That's all it takes for me to just fall in love with people now. Yeah, so I think it's definitely, it's just the whole kind of misconception about disability and like the lack of representation. All of that just means people have just got this very narrow view of what it is and what it means.
Beautiful. Well, that was going to be my next question, was going to be, why do you think people have these attitudes or preconceptions or senses of awkwardness around people with disability?
I think it's because people just don't see it. Like, it's like the majority of the disabled people I've spoken to kind of grew up being the only disabled in the village. Like, we didn't necessarily, like, I didn't know any other disabled people at all. And, you know, so for a lot of people, the only representation they see is so kind of scant, is that the right word? And like the films and stuff, it's generally disabled characters being played by able-bodied people, and it's some sort of tragic or inspirational story. And
die by suicide.
There's literally that film where the disabled man has got this, like, he's rich, he's really handsome, he's got a beautiful girlfriend, and he still kills himself.
His girlfriend, and he's like, no, it's still not worth it.
It's awful. It's so bad. I'll take your life.
Yeah.
I would happily go out with her. Like, you know, it's Emilia Clarke. She's beautiful. So
dragons.
it's just so and I think the kind of also the history of disabled people often being segregated and put in homes and all of this sort of stuff. I think people still have this view that disabled people are just at home being cared for constantly. And obviously that is the case for some disabled people. Some disabled people are at home, but even the people that are at home, it's still not the same as this kind of view that people have.
And like, I can't talk on behalf of all of those people, but I would imagine that a majority of them would spend more time outside of home if there was more access and inclusion in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something that, you know, my independence, I used to be so independent, like when I could still walk, and I used to often just like get a train to London on my own, and the thought of doing that just makes me want to throw up. Like, I would never do that. I could barely get on the train anyway because it's just a nightmare. And it definitely no, like, I think like they have to they pull a ramp out for you and you'd have to be helped on and then off, and most of the main inner London tube stations aren't accessible at all. They're just like, you just can't. And you just sort of think it's 2020 and there's, you know, I can't get on a main London tube station because I'm in a wheelchair.
And we make 18% of the world's population or something, and they're still not inclusive of us in public transport. Like, it's bizarre.
To be continued. Travel, recent experiences, and the disabled dollar.